Well, welcome everybody to Came to Believe Recovery's weekly live stream, Recovery Live. My name is Tom. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Today, as usual, I woke up and made my vow to be as honest, unselfish, as pure in motive, and do everything in love as I can today. That's the four absolutes that I start every day with. And we love to share the four absolutes with everybody, but it helps me get my day going. It's a beautiful fall weekend here on the East Coast. We're glad that you all joined us. Hi, Anna, of course, was on before we even started our broadcast. Matt, hi, Matt's there, and Jamie West. We got some Wisconsin and Minnesotaites on with us today. Really some great, exciting things coming up last week. 2 weeks ago, actually, we had the Schoolies Mountain Retreat back after a hiatus of 3 years, and it was life-changing. We have North Pennines Retreat in England coming up next weekend. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. And then after that, we're doing the Bronx Retreat, and we're going to talk something about that. And my guest today, we may talk about that and ask him about how that would have been for him when he was in a shelter before he came came to believe and then was able to get his life back. This week, guys, we're talking about reinventing yourself. We're going to talk about what happens after. What does living in the go look like? What has happened in our lives? And I know that I will tell people that after 2007, I reinvented myself I went back to school and got a master's degree, things I would have never thought. Truly reinventing, clearing away the past and starting over again, and walking in that fourth dimension. Taryn Morning out from California. Tim Lewick, how are you, buddy? See you there. Sarah Gardner, where are you from, Sarah? And I bet she's another Kentuckian. And I don't know, maybe not. It's great that you guys are all on the show today talking about reinventing ourselves. Any of you guys that are on have any stories or any questions, that'd be great to let us know, and we'll see if we can answer them. But this gentleman that I want to bring on now, I met him, I guess it's like 10 years ago now. And he showed up at a retreat with his father and his brothers, and it's still quite a success story for Came to Believe. And we all that were at that retreat remember back when these father and two brothers came in together for the first time to a Came to Believe retreat. And then, oh my, what has happened in their lives since. So without telling his story for him, I'd love to welcome my guest today, Shelby McCullough.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, buddy. There's a lengthy welcome for you, my friend.
I appreciate the kind words and everything, and glad I got to meet you and everybody at the retreat, and the way that it's changed my life, and basically gave me a new start in life all those years ago. Where should I start?
Yeah, you would call it a reinvention too, wouldn't you? Would you call it a reinvention when you came through? You reinvented yourself?
I can't think of any other way to explain it, because you can't really say it's like turning a new leaf or like controlling your behavior, or
right.
It's almost like you have to become a new person. You're not the same person you were.
Right. So reinventing is actually a good word.
Yes.
For us too. So let's talk a little bit about, I mean, we today, guys, when I meet with Shelby, and we once in a while when I'm in Florida and I see Shelby, but when we talk today, Shelby and I a lot talk about how life is today and what's going on with our families and stuff. And we don't talk so much about the past and what happened back then. Although we did yesterday, we were rehashing some of the past and what had happened, because it matters, guys. The transition that Shelby had and the transition that I had, you guys need to hear about it. And you need to hear that these success stories and wildly ridiculous success stories can happen. And if they can happen to people like me and Shelby, they can happen to you, especially from where the both of us came from. So, uh, when I met you guys, your father and Forrest and you, Shelby, which was 2012, you're saying at the retreat.
Correct.
Um, your father and your brother were at a place called the Spirit of Life, which was a kind of a sober house, not really a rehab, but sober house, halfway house. In It's not a Popka, is it, or is it a Popka?
Mount Dora.
Mount Dora. And your brother and your father had been in there a little while, and then you joined them.
Correct.
Just tell the audience so that they know, because I mean, the looks of you today, they'd never know where you came from. I don't think. What was life like right when you came into the Spirit of Life?
Life was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. Most nights, if I did go to sleep, I wouldn't want to wake up because I dreaded doing the same thing again the next day. It was a very dark place, and yeah.
What was your drug of choice?
Probably a tie between crack cocaine and opiates of any type.
And you drank too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Of course, right?
That was always a staple.
Yeah. It goes along with anything.
Yeah.
You know, I know that you guys had told some stories of when, you know, just not that long prior to you deciding that you needed to do something, right? And you were willing to do anything, that you had some pretty close calls with death from overdoses.
Yes. Yep. But you want to hear about that?
Sure. Okay. Absolutely.
Well, when I was 15, I had overdosed in a hotel room, and all I remember is everything going black and waking up. I don't know how many minutes later, with my dad and my brother beating on my chest. And I guess they had said I lost my pulse completely. They were beating on my chest in his hotel room, and when I was able to get up, I looked in the mirror and I had blood coming out of my nose, eyes, ears,
Whoa.
everything. And you know, as soon as I could start talking again, the first thing that I said was, "Can I have another one?" And that was, that was my life from
Insanity.
a young age.
Wow.
And yeah, a lot of close calls like that. And I do believe that, looking back in retrospect, and I always kind of had like an underlying suspicion that God or my higher power, was keeping me alive for something. Didn't really know what it was, but that was like the little tiny glimpse of hope that I had through all of that. Was, wow, I didn't die again,
Now, was that the first time you overdosed?
Yes, that was the first time. There was several other times. One time was at my little brother's birthday party in the bathroom. That was very embarrassing and scary for my mom. Stuff like that. I could probably count on two hands the amount of times that I'd overdose that I knew of.
When people often today will say to me, Shelby, when they see me and they hear a little bit about this, that they say, I can't even picture you like that. And I can't picture you like that now. I'm sure you hear that too. People are like, really? That was you?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, all you got to do is go on FloridaMugshots.com and you'll see see what I look like. And I was like The Walking Dead, just kind of
And then
So,
you guys showed up. Yeah, you guys showed up at that retreat. Um, uh, and I guess that was part of, when you go to Spirit of Life, you kind of got to go to the retreat, right? Or it's highly encouraged.
it's highly encouraged, and it would be really silly not to, in any case. Because I mean, I don't know how everybody else was, but when I got there, I didn't have any plan B. I didn't have, you know, I was either going to die or I was going to get clean. And I knew that. Um, so,
So you, your brother, and your father were basically homeless, penniless, living in the shelter.
so we weren't living in a shelter. We had been homeless before, but we were basically hotel hoppers and couch
Yeah.
hoppers, and
Uh,
whoever would let us stay with them for a time until we messed it up, kind of thing. Um,
right.
Detoxes, jails, stuff like that was kind of our shelter.
Did you go to jail? Did you do time in jail?
Yeah, a few times. Never prison or anything like that, but
Right.
just,
Short term.
yeah, short term.
Short.
Yeah.
Yeah, short. We'll talk about your wife here in a minute because she's also a miracle who
Yeah.
came through the program, and she came at least she came to retreat after you guys. I remember when you brought her. It wasn't that long after you guys came that you brought her.
Right.
And she has her own story, and we were hoping to have guys. We were hoping that Stephanie would join us today, but because of her life success and the success that these two have in their marriage, they have a wonderful family, and she's taking care of her family. It's what the gift of a reinvention has done in their lives. So she's gainfully employed, and Shelby says they might have her tied up in the closet by now. But I think Lisa relates to that, Shelby, because I think sometimes she thinks her kids are going to tie her up in the closet.
Yep.
It was really it's interesting, Shelby. When we were talking before, and guys, how these things have worked for both Shelby and I, and how we found ourselves and came to believe and found ourselves, hearing this message that we didn't really know anything about. We didn't really know, at least I didn't. I had no idea about AA or anything. And my first meeting, happenstance, had to be a meeting with Vicky Whiteshirt, who had lived with Clarence and Grace. And it was a came to believe meeting, and John Zamrock was running it. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And you guys find your way to the Spirit of Life, which was a Steve Foreman had started that, who was sponsored by Clarence. So here you are thrown into this thing, having had no idea what you were really into, but yet today look back and say, how did this all happen, right?
Yeah. It's amazing how crazy the whole process of transformation and the reinvention, like you're talking about, because you can get with any life coach or growth or business guru or somebody, and try to draw out a life plan to get yourself to another level. But when you look back in retrospect, like, I don't know if anybody could really pull that off the way that it's worked out. It's exponentially, my life is exponentially better, but in a whole different new way that I can never imagine before.
So let's talk about that. So we love to talk at Came to Believe about the solution, right? And living in the go and what happens now. And we don't like to spend our time talking too much about the past. It's really important to identify, though, because our audience, got to know we came from it, where we came from, so that we can relate. But how is life today? When you give us a little quick synopsis. When did you meet Stephanie, and how did that all go? And how'd you get to where you are today? Which, guys, he runs a hugely successful tree business in Florida, and there's even something else I found out yesterday. They're running a sober house now, And so, I mean, from where you were to where you are today, tell us a little bit about how that all happened and where you are today.
Um, well,
When did you meet Stephanie?
I met Stephanie 2013. 2013, I met Stephanie
I was going to say, she's listening. You better know when you met her.
at a barbecue. It was a summertime barbecue at a sober house that I was staying at. Well, the neighboring sober house, there was a couple of them in the same neighborhood. And, it was all men's houses. And so there's this girl there. And I guess she was brought because she was in recovery and she heard about she thought it was a pool party. So she showed up thinking it was going to be a pool party, but there's no pool. And it's a bunch of barbecue. And she was vegan at the time. So she's like, what am I doing here? And we ended up talking and had a really good conversation. And then it was probably since then we had got each other's information. We kind of kept bumping into each other at meetings. But I think, I knew when I first met her that we were going to be, we were going to end up being something. And anyways, what was it? I think 4 months after we met, we got married. And then 4 months after that, we got pregnant with our first kid. And then second, third, fourth kid. And it happened really fast, looking back. But I had never really found somebody from the opposite sex that I could relate to and be friends with in the way that Stephanie and I were able to. Well, actually, let me rewind, because there's a Dale B. I was at a retreat before I met Stephanie, and I had some struggles with being lonely and all kinds of stuff like that, and the demons that can come with that. And Dale said, you need to pray for a wife. It's time. I think I've been clean for like a year and a half. I'm like, really? You think it's time? So we prayed. He prayed that God would bring me a wife. And that was at a Came to Believe retreat. Anyways, I think it was maybe 2 weeks later is when that barbecue was.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we hit it off from there, and then we, got married and the whole thing. Yeah. So
it's really amazing, guys. We're always wondering when are they going to stop having kids? They just keep pushing these kids out, these guys. And I'm sure it's just wonderful. I've missed my opportunity for kids, but that's another story. And I'm good with it because, today, Shelby, I can go run around and do all these retreats everywhere because I don't have kids I got to take care of.
Right.
So let's talk about the rest of your life and the success that you've had in business. You're in the tree business, right?
Right.
And you guys you were in it with your father for a while, and your brother, who's also in the tree business, Forrest. And then you went off on your own 5 or 6 years ago, right? Or longer, or less?
2016. So yeah, 6 years ago.
And today, how many people work for you?
24 employees at McCullough Tree Service.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Every day is crazy.
But I mean, to think that's a significant business,
It is. Well, it's what we've always done. We've always done tree work. But there was always, always had this kind of cap, this limitation on how big it could get. And that's grown, and the top is blown off of it in the last 6 years. to where it's really amazing, like how big it's gotten and how everything's kind of fallen apart and then fallen back together and then fallen apart and come back together. Um, and to have, my Stephanie has always been extremely encouraging and extremely, I wouldn't say pushy, but she, points to my potential and it's like, okay, you got this, you can do this. When I'm like, I just want to give up,
Right.
and so it's been very helpful. And then, yeah, that's grown. And we bought a house in Longwood that didn't make any sense. Like, we didn't know why we were buying this house. It was too big. We couldn't afford it. It had this huge yard and like 6 bedrooms. Um, but we felt like God was saying, buy the house. Here's your house. And I think a week after staying there, we went to a service, and there was a pastor, and he said, at the end of the service, he said, somebody here just bought a big house and doesn't know what they're going to do with it. Well, I'm telling you that you're supposed to use this house to help people who struggle with addictions. And it was like, we never been to this church before or met any people. And so about a year later, we got tired of trying to keep up with this big house, and we moved to a smaller house. And instead of selling it, we're like, well, let's, it was like every other option seemed closed off except making it a sober house, because I didn't say, oh, I want to have a sober house. It wasn't like that. It was, I want to also own a sober house and a tree service, because that's what I need, is more responsibilities. It kind of like, kind of ran into it, if that makes any sense. And then it worked, and so we did it, and now we're still doing it. And we got a manager for the house, and we've seen a lot of crazy stuff running a sober house, but we've kind of changed our systems and made things better, and it's evolving still. But yeah, it's great. Get to sow into these guys that are just coming in and be a part of their journey. So
We got to get back. Sunny May says, God is doing tree work within you. She says, Isaiah 61:3. I guess
Amen.
that has something to do with pruning or something, I would imagine. Sunny is a great Yankee fan. She's going to come on. And she also likes pumpkin lattes, I think. Melissa McManus is with us. Melissa's from the UK. Wales. I know, Melissa. So think about that, guys. Listen to that story. If you're in the audience and you're thinking you can't make it, or you're in some place where you're tough right now and you're just wondering. I mean, this is this young man who went from literally bleeding from his eyes and ears to owning a business with 24 employees, 4 kids, a wife, and now is running a sober house to give back. It's exhausting, Shelby.
It is exhausting. Yeah.
When do you sleep, brother?
Between like 11:30 and 4:30. Usually.
That's not that much. That's not that much. And, guys, from my standpoint, because I met Shelby, like at the beginning of this, I was at that first retreat and we were all amazed. They got it the first time. They got it. And him and his father and his brother went off, and his brother's doing great things too.
Yeah. Yep.
And he got married, and he has kids, and he has a story as well. And we'll get Forrest on here one of these days. We can get him out of a tree, right? He loves to climb the tree. You're not climbing the trees much anymore, or are you?
I do when I need to, but we got four or 5 climbers on any given day, but sometimes they say they won't do it, or it's too dangerous or something like that, and I'll go do it. But
there's nothing too dangerous for you, right?
Nothing too dangerous, yeah.
The 4th dimension of existence.
Exactly.
So I just can't even imagine. I mean, that's just such a degree 6. So where do you see it going from here? Are you going to branch out to have another a branch somewhere else? You're going to get bigger? What do you see?
Yeah, I see us definitely getting bigger. I'm not sure how much bigger, but I also see the sober the it's safe haven sober living getting bigger too. We're actually building on to the house and adding 4 more units. And I mean, I just, you know, I feel like God has big plans for each person, as big as you can possibly imagine, and more. And so I try not to get in the way of that, but sometimes it is exhausting, and that's why, you know 10, 11, and 12, and being a part of recovery and getting refreshed is such a big deal.
It's funny. Sunny May says branch out, Tom. She's very funny. She put it in quotes. She's on our one of our his branch out. You're really
I like
funny.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's really funny. Well, you made a good point there, Shelby, about the limitations that we put on ourselves, or we used to put on ourselves, right? And the limited vision we used to have. And you just said it. You don't have it anymore today because you've seen so much happen, right? Who are you to say where the limit is, right?
Yeah. It's like, trying to think of how to describe it, but it's almost like, you know, if you put a fish in a bigger fish bowl, the fish gets bigger, and you can't wait until, you know, it's like you can't wait until you have all the resources and everything is set up to, like, take an opportunity, or make a leap of faith, or try something that you feel led, you know, it's that whole faith thing, and God meeting you there, or however you want to look at it.
Well, it's true. And what I found was I started to look at the last time I thought that, so I said, I used to think I could never do that. And then I did it. So when I think I can't do something, wait a minute, but the last time I thought that I
Right.
did it. So why not give it a shot? And you're right, where you're being led, and your success builds on success. And I love that you mentioned 10, 11, and 12, because you get it, guys, and listen to him. Shelby's been sober and he's busy, and with all this stuff, he still talks about doing 10, 11, and 12 every day to keep his spiritual condition in shape and to keep himself in line so he can keep moving forward. It's awesome. How do you do your 10, 11, and 12 every day? Do you do it? I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk over you. I'm just going to talk. We talk about, Shelby, when we do at the retreats, we talk about doing 10, 11, and 12, and we tell everybody, you do it at night, and then you do 11 in the morning or something like that. But I have gotten to where I kind of do it all throughout the day, so it never catches. Is that how it's evolved for you?
Yes. Yeah, and I try to keep it simple, and I don't do it perfectly. I don't have like a set routine because my schedule is very busy and demanding. So I try to squeeze in like 5-10 minutes. Like for my step 11, I might in the middle of the day pull off on the side of the road and leave my phone in the truck and just walk into the woods for like 10 minutes and just spend some time, in prayer and meditation, on the side of the road with my truck running still and the phone in there. People think it's weird, but
It's not weird. Listen, it's you knew where you came from, and where I mean, you're recovered, so that's not an option for you. But it's such a testament to people, Shelby, that say I'm too busy. There's not anybody that could say that to you, I don't think, and match you, and you still make time to do what you need to do.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely do better, but yeah.
That's right. I'm sure Stephanie tells you that, right? I mean, if your step 10 needs work, she helps you with that a little bit, probably.
Yeah. So funny story. I had missed a couple weeks in meetings, and I have my Stephanie and the girls in the office schedule all my appointments, and so they scheduled me an estimate to go look at trees, but it was at a recovery meeting, and so I'm thinking I'm going to this estimate. They were really just setting me up to go to a meeting. And it was somebody with a very eccentric name too, that they made like this fake name saying, be here at 12 o'clock to meet. It was like Fabio Gustav, like that. so,
That's funny.
so yeah, I got good accountability in my life. And I feel like that's really important too, because especially when you start getting the the gifts of recovery, it's easy to kind of like withdraw and isolate and think that you did it,
Mm.
and you don't need anybody, or so.
And that I love that you brought that up too, that level of humility, because if you guys met Shelby, he clearly is very successful. He does not come off that way. He's down to earth, and that humility is a big part of this, though, Shelby, to keep us in right sized, knowing that it's not about us. As soon as we think it's about us, it could run away with us, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's a scary thought.
Yeah. Sue Foreman is with us. She's watching. Says stepping out in faith. Mike Gernentz, I don't know who he is, Mike, wherever you are. Let us know where you're from. So you know what I'm thinking? I know Lisa's in the background. She's our producer today. And I wonder if Lisa listening to our conversation, has any questions for you, Shelby. So I'd like to see if we can call Lee. There she is.
Yeah.
So,
Hi.
and
hello. Thanks for being on today. Thanks for calling me on.
Yeah. after listening to us and listening to the story, what do you think about that?
I'm trying to relate to it. I think everybody, has some level of reinvention in their life. For us, quote unquote, normies, I use that term lightly. Sometimes we're not at like a place of rock bottom, but we're unhappy. And it's taking that first step to reinventing yourself. And it's a scary process, and I think about that, what happened to me a couple of years ago, and basically reinventing myself. I was in an industry for over 10 years, had some life circumstances, and had to completely change. And, you presented yourself, and that was something I never expected. And it was scary, but like you were saying earlier, now we're fundraisers, we are webmasters, we are accountants, and we're saving lives. So it's.
I didn't even think about that, Lisa, that you're, for all of you that know, and Shelby, Lisa and I used to work together at the university before I worked in. And when I met you, I was working at the university. Remember that, Shelby? I don't know if you remember. Yep. And Lisa and I worked there together. And then, I had left, I was ahead of her leaving to come over to Came to Believe. And it's been part of me forever,
Right.
And then Lisa, there was these circumstances, like Lisa said, that came around, and she came on board with us. But it was a big trend. That was a reinvention for you, because she didn't know anything about any of this. And now we're doing all those things. We were talking on the phone today that we're webmasters, we're mail people, we're this, we're that, and we're everything. But
well,
it's really,
you guys seem to be crushing it, because it seems to me Came to Believe has grown significantly with all with the marketing and the these sorts of things. I definitely would like to tune in weekly, and if these are every week, and be a bigger part of this. But yeah, it's amazing what you guys are doing, and you don't have to like almost die 100 times and eat a sandwich out of a dumpster and do all this stuff to be able to enjoy the gifts and of the principles of recovery that that it brings, because it works for everything. It's not just and that's another thing too, that You take when I took the drugs and alcohol away, I had a whole other mountain of issues underneath that I'm still working on that are,
Right.
very difficult to overcome. And
Yeah, and
so
I
I'm
think it's
sure,
that self-understanding and self-awareness that you get through the steps that allows you to start working on a lot of that.
yeah, and you can apply the steps to anything pretty much, right?
Absolutely. Yep. We all have character defects that we're working through, you know?
Yeah.
I identified quite a few last weekend or at Schoolies Mountain. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I do need this, huh?
Lisa met BJ in person last week, Shelby.
Okay.
It was amazing. I've been talking to BJ through Zoom for 2 years, and I finally got to get a famous BJ hug. So it was
She's
awesome. It was
yeah,
everything it lived
she's
up to
amazing.
be. She's a wonderful lady.
She's amazing. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
And
she's great.
So BJ and Jack, Lisa, had a lot. They were very close with these guys at the beginning, especially Jack at the Spirit of Life, because Jack like volunteered. Did they live across the street from Spirit of Life, Jack and
Okay.
BJ, right? And
yep.
he was in there a lot. So I know that Jack was a big part of the early recovery for all you guys, for your brother and your father, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He was the first class I went to was Jack Rapp talking about the steps. And I was like, who is this guy? What is he like? 150 years old? Talking about, he said, I guarantee you, he gave me a guarantee. He said, I guarantee if you do the steps and then 10, 11, and 12 every day for the rest of your life, you'll never have to drink or drug again. And I was like, my ears perked up and I was like, what? Is that a guarantee? Guarantee that? So
Yeah, that was one of the things that I realized at the retreat that was resonating with people. Like I only have to do steps 1 through 9 once and then do 10, 11, and 12. Well, I can manage that. Like every time I make a mistake, I don't have to start over. Like, and I can be recovered. Like it was this release. It doesn't define you anymore that I noticed in people. And that redefining yourself is no longer constantly in recovery and recovering. And now you can identify as recovered and move on and let that stuff stay in the past and continue living in the go through 10, 11, and 12. Like that was the thing I noticed most at the retreat was just that release.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had never heard that before either. And so it was like a huge game changer to hear because I always heard, oh, you got to do all the steps all the time, every day, every minute. You're failing. It's like, it's like, where do you even start with that?
Right.
So, you're hearing it, guys. It does not have to happen because that's not the way they did it back in the 30s when this was the most successful, late 30s and 40s. They were getting it done and then living life. And you heard Shelby and you heard Lisa and you'll hear me. We live lives now and we have things that come up and we have things that we're dealing with, but we do it from a recovered standpoint and we have a set of tools to use to help us grow, and we just keep growing and growing. But along with it is our lives are moving on, right? And our businesses are growing and our families are growing and there's greater and greater success, and then we're giving back. It was great having you on, Shelby. I haven't seen you in a while. I always love chatting with you. We always get together whenever I do see you. We'd love you and Stephanie to be, I'm putting you on the spot. Bigger part of, I'm thinking you ought to hire a senior manager for McCullough Tree Service to give you a little freedom to come help us. You just did. Good.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago. So
beautiful. Yeah. We're going into the Bronx. This is our advertisement for the Bronx. We're going into the Bronx now, Shelby. And this is something Lisa and I were talking about this morning. I was telling her that you have this halfway house, right? Sober house, whatever you call it.
Right.
And Shelby, we've moved in, came to believe it's moved into this place where we're going into shelters and rescue missions like the Spirit of Life, but even bigger and even more desperate. And they've invited us in and we go in for the weekend and we do the retreat, but we just do it in-house and they're all staying there. And it's been wonderfully successful. We're really reaching these guys at their least, guys and girls.
Right.
And we're going to be in the South Bronx in New York City in a couple of weeks, doing it at a rescue mission there. And we bring a team in from around the country, and we'd love for you to be part of that team one of these days and come and help spread the message around the country as we're doing it. You have such a story to tell, and you came from such a place. That's my invitation to you, is join us on one of these trips. It is a weekend. I don't know if you get away, but
we can make it happen.
yeah.
I just need to know some dates and assemble an army of babysitters.
And we'd love to have you come back and join us on Recovery Live again and tell us what's going on in your life. We'll get Stephanie on next time. We do this every Friday, so now that you've watched us and you're part of this, you'll see a notification come on your phone. If you have us on Facebook, and you can watch us every Friday.
Okay.
And I'm blessed to call you a friend, and having known you all these years, and it's good to see you, brother. And so off to cutting some trees, and we'll see you soon.
So good to see you too, Tom. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Lisa, pleasure to meet you. Hopefully we'll get to meet in person, and just let me know what the dates are, and we'll try to make it happen to the Bronx.
See, we got that on film now, Lisa. You see that?
We got it. We got it. Thanks so much, Shelby.
Thank you.
See you, brother. So, isn't that, that's a success. That's a 10 years down the road, Lisa, success story.
It's awesome.
And when I go to these retreats, which I go to all the time, and you see this now because you came last week, is somebody at that retreat starting like Shelby.
Yeah.
And 10 years from now is going to have some story.
Yeah.
And that's why I get so touched, knowing that when we see the light go on, like you saw, some of those people, the light went on.
The light went on. I
right?
saw it.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
And we got to have many, many more people like Shelby come on. And I don't know where I thought about that yesterday. I thought, you got to find Shelby. It's such a story. He's a very humble guy. He's blown that tree business out of. He's extremely successful down in Florida. I have 25 guys covered. He's got I'm sure that's 4 or 5 crews around. Those guys were him and his brother with a chainsaw on their back, and their father, and now his brother, Forrest, wins those lumberjack competitions.
Okay.
He climbs the trees. He does these lumberjack competitions. And we should have asked Shelby about that, because Shelby would probably say he could beat him. Brother, right?
Absolutely.
But for all of you guys watching us, we'd love for you to support us any way that you can. Come help us volunteer. If you feel like you got a few dollars in your pocket that's weighing you down, you'd love to donate it to us, because Lisa and I are doing everything we can to try to save lives, and to do everything we can behind the scenes, wearing every hat that we can, to make sure that this thing goes on, so that we can get this message to all of the other Shelbys and Forrests and Charleses in the world who just need to hear this message and get their life started and be able to reinvent. Help us to help them. And
our fundraising we're able to do the Bronx retreat because of a donation. We're able to bring people in, Spanish speaking and English speaking, to present the steps to this mission. And we would not have been able to do it at the level that we're doing it without that donation. So if you have it in you and this is something you believe in, it just helps us reach that many more people.
And the city team one in San Jose was also funded through donations, and so was St. Joseph in Missouri. So guys, your donations go directly to help people. When we get the money, it's the reason why we're able to go in and help these people who would not get this message otherwise. They would not get it. And I was talking, Lisa, I don't know who I was talking to the other day. I was talking to the team that's coming to do the Bronx retreat, saying, what an opportunity. These guys don't even have a chance to go to rehab. They don't have insurance. They don't have anything.
Right.
So there is no options for them. And us going in, we're not crossing our fingers. We're putting our hands together really to pray that what we can do. And we just want to do more of this, guys. If you're listening, we want to be able to go to these places, to these least, the lost and lost, these people that don't have any other chance, and see if this is the answer for them. And at least that it's an opportunity to give this a shot. And, because Sarah is pushing us towards more and more of these kind of places and which is great. It's where we need to be. So we're going to put our shirt giveaway on hold, right, Lisa? We're going to think of something else.
Yeah, we're going to try to come up with something different for you guys, because I think everyone that enters has probably quite a few on hand.
Right.
So we're going to come up with something a little bit different coming up soon. And maybe we have a virtual retreat coming up in January. I'm putting Tom on the spot now. Maybe we give a couple spots away for the virtual retreat.
Right. Oh, and very great. I'm glad that you said that. Guys, look towards our registration page. It'll be maybe by the end of today, tomorrow. I'm looking at Lisa.
We'll see. We're trying.
We are going to open the registration for the virtual retreat. It's January 6th through the 8th. And we're hoping to get a full house like we had last year. We already have people trying to sign up, according to Casera.
Yeah.
Guys, it's a great thing because it's such an international community. It has a different element to it because we have all of us are together. The people from the UK, the Californians, which are like, another country. Sorry, Taryn. And like another country. And then we have the Las Vegites, like Doc, but that's right. And then forget about all those guys from Wisconsin. We'll bring our Kentucky friends in too. But it's a great conglomeration of people. And let me tell you guys, we did 15 of them, right, Lisa? We've done 15 virtual retreats, most of them during COVID.
Yeah.
And some of our senior leaders today within Came to Believe, the only thing they've done is virtual retreats, or had been until they came back on. So the message worked. We take you through the same program. You get to do it from the comfort of your home in your armchair. You can't watch the Yankees behind it. We do wish the Yankees luck tomorrow. They're doing terrible, down 2-0 or 0-2, but comebacks do happen. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, another great episode of Recovery Live. We will see you all next Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, 12 a.m. on the East Coast, and 5 p.m. in the UK, guys. And why don't you start your days out being honest, unselfish, pure in all the motives that you have throughout the day, and do everything in love, guys. And we'll see you next week. Bye, Lisa.
Bye.